that year mean to you? Anybody here? 2054. Your life in 2054. Anybody have anything of significance that year would mean to you?
I'll be 102 years old.
Okay, you'd be 102 years old, yeah?
Close to retirement.
Close to retirement? You're going to wait that long?
I better.
Young guy like you, you're planning to wait that long. Okay, go ahead.
I better be retired by then.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody that date particularly mean anything to you? The year?
I hope I'm still working.
Your hope you're still working in 2054. Okay.
Functionally.
Means functionally, yeah. Like I can, Actually, 2054 for me is the year of my 100th birthday. So I would encourage you today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about thinking in the perspective of your future self, the person that will exist in your life in 2054, or pick a date. I don't really care. But the point is, as you get old, sometimes, one thing is I love seeing young people here, and I love working with millennials. I have 5 millennials in my house. And one of the things that I find is when I was their age, when I was your age, I look at people like me and they go, how can they stand it? They are old. I mean, look, their mouth's hanging open. They're just staring. They look grumpy. I had all kinds of things. But you know what? I am now probably considered by the majority of, for sure, millennials, but I'm considered old or in my long-term memory. Sometimes I think it's my short-term, but then maybe it's been going on for a long time. So I don't really know. But the point is, as I'm working with young people and older people, and I think Randy can attest to this, and Lloyd, and probably Mark, and a few of us in here, you can attest to this, is when you're old, it doesn't last very long. I mean, it goes really fast. So you're not old that long, right? That's the one thing that you can take consolation. And then the other thing is, old people don't really give a rip what young people think, right? I mean, that's true. So the thing is, but one thing I have learned as I've gone on is no matter who you are, whether you're Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Jenna Apgar or anybody important like that, Thank
you, y'all are all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so if you're like that, it's a level playing field. There's nobody in here that has an advantage over anybody else. You understand that, right? Why is that? Because we're all limited to 24 hours in the day. Okay. The thing is, every decision we make, everything we do, we have a crystal ball. We each have a unique crystal ball. The question is, are we aware of it? The question is, are we managing it? The reality of it is, how many of you are making decisions today for your future? Give me a show of hands. So you agree that every decision, every action, everything you do, and I do, has an impact on my life in 2054. By the way, part of my, if anything were possible, vision of future is I'm going to be alive in 2054, the year of my 100th birthday. That's my plan. Okay. If I didn't have that plan, if you said, okay, what is something less, but my point is, everybody here, everything you're doing, you're making decisions, but are we really good at that? Are we really good at making decisions for the future? Honestly. Who thinks they're really good at making decisions for the future? The reality of it is none of us are, because of one simple fact. We're not wired that way. What are we wired for? We're wired for, if it feels good, it must be good. If it's something that, our what's called our limbic brain or our reptilian brain, or how we were created back in eons ago, we were basically made, and our default is if it feels good. Why do you think some of us need to go on a diet? Why do some of us have more debt than we can imagine? Why do some of us doing something that we never intended to do? It's all because we're not using our unique crystal ball. We're not taking advantage of some very simple things that will help you. Now, it's interesting to me because the room isn't full, And if I said I was going to reveal to you your own crystal ball that from this point forward you would be able to see the future, and the word got out, and I think I invited probably over 100 people to this session today, and there's people on the thing. How many people do you think would show up if they really believed it or really understood what that meant? This room would be packed. We wouldn't be able to hold it here. There would be people standing out there, wishing they could get in. But the reality of it is we're not inclined to think of it. If your future self knew that if you came here today and that would change the course of your life and you would have that crystal ball, you would have probably made a different decision. You made a good decision because you're here, but people watching on Facebook have made a good decision to be here. That's my judgment, by the way. But we don't tend to make those decisions. So my reason here is to spend a little time on this is because of this. Here's Jenna Apgar. Remember I told you she's famous. And her famous quote to me, and she said it to me a number of times already, and she's my partner in the Business Growth Network, is no one wakes up in the morning saying, I need a vision. No one wakes up in the morning. And you know why? Let me tell you why. Because the people she's thinking of, and when Randy said that's right, and when other people said that's right, here's the people they're thinking of. Zombies. The reality of it is no one, at least that's a zombie, wakes up in the morning and says, I need a vision, or I need to consult or connect with my vision of where I'm going. Nobody does.
You're really getting a lot of mileage.
There's a lot of people that want that. It's only started. This metaphor goes a long way. Okay, so all I'm saying is that that's true. But the good news is you guys, at least today, aren't in zombie mode. Okay, you guys are here. You're wanting to have a crystal ball. You want to have a purpose. You want to understand what that is. You want to know where you're going, right? That's great. So I want to make sure that, whether you look at this in your 100th birthday or whatever, think about yourself. What is that future? What do you want that future self to not regret? Think about that. What do you want that future self to be proud of? Okay? Because see, those are the things that if you're really thinking in terms of where I'm going and why I'm going there, those are the things that should occur to you sometimes. And I don't think we spend a lot of time thinking. I know I don't without intention. And that's part of it is, zombies, do they have intention? No. Zombies are just dragging themselves from one place to another. And if you know anything about zombies, again, the metaphor, they tend to run in herds. And they tend to follow the herd, and you just tend to see a lot. They just tend to gravitate together, and so on and so forth. So anyway, and I'm not calling anybody. This isn't a disparaging term. If you were here 2 weeks ago when I told my story of my first breakthrough moment or first breakthrough time was when I realized I was in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, and I was in an airplane in an airport. A lot of money and a lot of things. And so anyway, so that's that. I'm not going to go that story again. So let's talk about your future crystal ball. And we're going to talk about 5 areas, 5 things. And I will share this with you today. This will be something that actually we don't even, and we go through the Vision Challenge, which again starts on October 2nd. It's free, it's 5 days, that thing. We're only going to touch on this. And so I'm only going to touch on this today. But I'm going to give you the high points. And even if you only come today and you never think about this again, if you take this information down, it will serve you well. It will help you at some point flesh out answering that question. If anything were possible, what kind of future would I imagine? Okay? So that's what I'm hoping to deliver today. Now, I will tell you in full transparency and confession that I'm working, as I said, on the book real time. And because I didn't have a speaker for today, or the speaker that I had for today wasn't going to be able to make it, I repurposed this and created this talk and finished it late last night, as I confessed to Mark. But this obviously is very much top of mind, And so you're going to get something nobody else has gotten before. I will tell you the process that I'm going to take you through very quickly here is something that in the corporate world, in my past, when we've worked with CEOs and large companies who can write big checks and things like that, this would cost you, this plus the Vision Challenge cost you about $150,000. And we're giving the Vision Challenge for free and you're getting this for free. So it's a heck of a deal. The only thing is I will tell you is when you get, oh, it costs you $1. Yeah, don't forget, we forgot the meeting costs $1. So, and for those you can send me $1 if you're on Facebook. No, just if you like it that much. But anyway, things that people don't pay for, they usually don't appreciate. So the only risk of giving you something this important and valuable and something to do for free is that you're less likely to do anything with it because you didn't pay for it. Does that make sense? Anybody else ever experienced that? So that's the only thing that I have. So we're going to talk about your future as you look at it and look at, I look at colors of the beach ball, so to speak, and there can be one beach ball and you can look at the beach ball from different angles. So think of this crystal ball as a beach ball. And if you look at it from this angle, you can see this. You look at it from this angle, you see this color, and so on. So you say beach ball is blue. No, the beach ball is green. No, the beach ball is red. Depending on your angle of the thing. So I'm going to give you the 5 things, 5 ways, 5 key questions, 5 ways to look at the future that will help you create the clarity of what is that ideal future and what should I ultimately do today. Is that something you'd be interested in? Is that something that would be of value? Hopefully. So, first of all, we're going to talk about what is probable, and I'll break down. What is the probable future? What are your assumptions? Do you know what the future is? No. That's one of the reasons why we don't know. Make good decisions, or we don't decide for the future. Has anybody seen the future? No, you only see today. You see what you can see, or you know what you've seen. But you've seen the future. Where does the future exist? Right here. And in fact, what is to become the future will only exist if it's first occurred here. You with me? So, we can ultimately create the future, but first we have to understand several things about how we can really understand and have our own unique crystal ball. And it's not mine. I can't tell you your future. You only have the unique ability to incorporate and translate into your unique crystal ball. The other thing is, what could surprise you? What about the future? If you were conscious, and the thing is, and we're going to talk in a minute, what in the future might surprise you? Aristotle said 2,000 years ago, it's likely that something unlikely will happen. Pretty smart, right? But that's true, and I've got that on the side. What is it? What are the possibilities? What is out there in the future? Not just a. Is there just one? Is your future today, as it stands here, can you only think of one possible scenario that will make up your future? No, there's multiple. So you have to think of your future and what are the possible scenarios. The other one is, this is the one that I always ask. If anything were possible, if you could create the future, if you had all the money, all the resources, all the intellect, all the support, everything you needed, and you got to create the future, what would that look like? Does that make sense? And then the hardest one is then once you have that future you want to create, what does bridge from that place look like to today, and what do you do with it? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. Again, I'm going to go back over that. I know I went through that pretty quickly, but just to kind of give you a thought of some questions, some things to consider with each of those areas. And if you can do this, and this isn't, I have the same trap that you guys have. I'm used to doing things and keeping things in my head. I got it. You listen to what I just said, I got it, okay, I'm ready to go on to the next meeting, whatever. I'm just telling you right now, and then one of the things we're doing the Vision Challenge, and one of the things you're going to continue to do if you participate in the Business Growth Network Insiders and stuff is you're going to write it down. You're going to get it out there. And you're going to change it, and that's okay. But you got to get it on paper. You got to get it down in person. So, first of all, what are the problems? what is probable? When you think of the future and you think of what is probable, first thing is, what are the things that you assume will be added to that future? You look around today, and this, here's the new iPhone, whatever. Here's the stuff that's here. Here's what I have to work with. Here's how I acquire customers. Here's how I do my business. Here's this and that. Everything. What's going to be added to the future that isn't here today? Think about it. Write it down. I would guarantee you, if everybody in this room and everybody online wrote down what they think is going to come in that isn't here today, do you think any two of them will be the same? No. That's why it's unique. You have your unique assumptions. There's not just one set of assumptions. We each have our unique assumptions. The other thing is, what will stay the same? Interestingly enough, when you look at the default, because we don't really know what people's assumptions, people don't go around saying, I'm doing this because I assume in the future this is going to be that, right? We don't even do that ourselves. How do you know what somebody's assumptions are? You can tell.
By their actions.
By their decisions and their actions and exactly what they're doing. Even if those assumptions are not conscious. And the second one is one that people have big time. Is they assume that we assume that the world that we're in today is not going to change. That's why people are so vehemently resistant to change, right? That's the business I've been in. Change, leadership, major transitions, outsourcing, multi-billion-dollar deals, whole corporations, moving stuff. Has anybody seen any change? Do you think change is getting more or less? Change is growing exponentially. Yeah. So, and that'll come into play in a minute when we talk about plan. But the thing is, so what do we expect not to change though? There's some things that probably won't change, but that's your crystal ball, right? Death and taxes, right? So that's the one. And then the other thing is what will go away. What will not be here when you look at it and you're in your now, 100-year-old self or, 2054, whatever year you pick. What is not going to be there? What do you expect? I don't expect to see a Betamax player. Okay, if you and the younger folks even know what that is. But they lost the battle to the VHS player, which lost the battle to the DVD player, which lost the battle to everything, and now it's all streaming phones. You don't even need a camera or a player or anything else, right? So the point is, what's here today? I mean, if you're today making your living on repairing DVD players, you're probably not going to make a lot. So that's important to understand. So it's a macro view. This is, when you look at the thing, it's not just that you look at the macro, the high level. What are the assumptions? What are the assumptions? What's energy going to be look like? What's the geopolitical situation going to be? What kind of genomics are out there? What kind of technology, what kind of things are going to change? And then the most important thing here with your assumptions is write them down. Test them with somebody you trust, or test them against, maybe go out and do some research. This is the assumption I'm making. Let me Google this and see if there's something out there, somebody out there doing something that like that, or something that would make that wrong. Okay, and then refine it and continue. Because would you like, if you had a crystal ball and you had a good start, would you like it to be as good and accurate as possible? I would think so. So again, refining it is important. The next one is what could surprise you. These are threats. Remember, what I said is that which is unlikely is likely to happen, according to Earth. We all know that, right? Hurricanes happen. Just experience that. More than last year. Just experience that. You think the people that bought houses on Port Aransas Island bought those with a clear picture that in 2017, in September, that a hurricane was going to flatten that property? You think they would have invested if they, or they might have done? It's not that they're, and it's not because, it's just, you may still do it, but at least you know what was likely to happen, or you would have good insurance, or you sure wouldn't do it and not have insurance, or whatever, if you could see if you were thinking about what unlikely happened, what are alternative, the other way to think of threats or what might surprise me is what are alternatives to what my assumptions are? And the easiest way to do it is just reverse your assumptions. So I'm assuming this is going to be here, what if it's not? I'm assuming this is going away, what if it doesn't? I'm assuming this is going to be part of the future, what if it isn't? And how does that look? How does that work? You with me? Does that make sense? So, and then, just an example is the iPhone. I mean, you think that the people that were developing digital cameras and everything else have been impacted by something maybe they didn't expect, which was cameras that can now do high-res, HD video and so on and so forth. You think people doing, the high-res cameras and stuff anticipated, there's still a market for digital cameras and other kinds of cameras and things like that, but has it changed? Absolutely. Do you think there were some people surprised by that? I would say yes.
I was going to say, there was an interesting, on the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, where they showed an ad from mid-'80s of Radio Shack. How many items that the iPhone did, almost the entire full-page ad.
It was the entire full-page double spread with
Yes.
all these gadgets that would spread across your desk. Were all in the iPhone.
We're all in the iPhone.
So without being repetitive, the key is write those down, integrate, into those visions and continue to refine. Integrate that into it. Because having a robust view is also being aware that there are things that maybe your assumptions may surprise you. The next one is what are the possibilities? This is, as I said before, is there one future scenario and only one for you? And the answer is no. How will you feed yourself? How will I eat, or how will I live in the future? Is it the way I'm living now? Is the same thing I'm going to repair going to be what I'm going to repair? The car's going to look the same, or this going to, the tools I'm going to use, are they the same? And if not, what's going to change and how? When, the machine, things are becoming more automated, right? How are you going to put the soul back in the machine? How is the human going to be needed? Even in the medical profession, which, surgical and everything else, it's becoming robotic, right? But do you want to be, be operated on by an unsupervised robot? No, I mean, maybe there's a role, but that expert or that person that's making a living off of surgical activities or whatever, you're going to want them to understand how to use those tools in the future, right? But that would be different. If you're in that business, it would be something that you need to think about as well. So again, those are all things that you need to think about. What are the scenarios? Remember I said if anything were possible, what kind of future could you imagine? Doesn't mean but what are your imagined possibilities? That's also part of your unique crystal ball, is what do I imagine? What kind of scenarios could I imagine? So that you're not surprised. Write it down, brainstorm it. Write down all the possible scenarios of what the future might look, how you might make a living in the future versus how you're doing today. If you assume nothing changes and you write down that's the only one you got, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and just do it better, faster, cheaper, whatever. It's okay. I'm not sure that's going to be that crystal ball is a little dark. So the other thing is, what are the jobs and businesses of the future? The one that I always come to because of my experience is, what do you think happened in the scenario with Uber and the possibilities? Do you think that people were planning? It was a surprise to people in the taxi business, people that were making their living. Do you think it's still, do you think that's still causing problems, changing things? Yeah. But what was that? That was a convergence of millennials, geotagging, and smartphones, and somebody that knew how to put those in place, and all of a sudden you didn't need the model that was there before. So those people are now trying, guess what a lot of the Uber drivers are now? They used to be taxi drivers. Companies are trying to figure out how to catch up with that. So those disruptive things, again, write them down, integrate them into your vision. And the one that I kind of settle in on, the one we'll talk about a little bit in the vision challenge, is your desired future. Of all those scenarios, I just listed, the previous one we talked about all the possible scenarios. I look at all the possible scenarios of all the things, and it's very clear. But then, which one would I prefer? Which place of all the Hawaiian islands do I want to take my vacation versus, you know, do I just want to go, or do I, you know, so that is important to understand is which one is the one you're going to, what do I ask? When we're working with, I'm looking for people to work with that are aspiring leaders. So you're leading to something. I want you to be leading to here. I want you to know what you're leading people to. Where are you leading? Because if you're a leader, somebody's following. What future are you assuming you're taking people to? And would you think it would be powerful? You think you'd have more people in your organization if you're building a practice and you're recruiting people who want to make more money, or you're trying to get consulting? Do you think it would be more attractive to them if you could tell them where you're going or where they're going, or help them figure out, you know, what is that future that you're going to? Of course. I mean, I don't even have to, I mean, but the thing is, we don't spend any time with that. And in fact, when I ask that question a lot of times to people, again, zombies don't care. And I'm not being negative here, I'm just saying that just plodding forward, dragging yourself forward from one to the next isn't necessarily an intentional use of your unique crystal ball. So know what you're leading to. Write it down, integrate that into your vision. And the last one area is that planned future. Now that you know where you're leading to, now that you know what you're assuming is probably going to happen, you know what could surprise you, then what is that plan? That can be overwhelming. Once you look at that and you say, well, here's where I am, and this is where I want to go, and maybe you don't want to wait till 2054. Maybe you want to do it in 2018. That's okay. In a dynamic, exponentially growing world that we're in right now, I'm going to ask the question. It's almost going to sound contradictory to you, but what value does long-range planning have in terms of taking action today? Because you can't outthink the future. You just have to kind of know the directionally where you're going and what you're trying to do and what could surprise you and what you're assuming is in place. And as that changes, you adapt. But today, I guarantee you, if you read Gary Keller's book, or you listen to the things that Steve Jobs has written, and you see the success of Apple or anything else, I will tell you for one thing for certain, is they'll tell you, find that one thing. In fact, Gary Keller wrote the book, The One Thing. Figure out what thing you can do today that would most move you forward towards that desired future. And do that. Not 100 things, that 1 or 2, maybe 3 things that you're going to do now that you have this crystal ball, and you look at the future that way and say, okay, through that prism, yeah, that's on the bridge, I'm headed that way. Now that's not that hard, right? But this is a process, this is a plan, this is the way you can do this. This is a thing that people who get paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars have to come back and revisit. So you guys, I'm not talking down to you, I'm not telling you something that other people don't already struggle with. I struggle with, we all struggle with. So the point is, know what that plan is. So that's the package. That's what kind of encompasses your unique crystal ball. What is it that you think is probable? What is it that you think might surprise you? What is it that you think you're going to live on in the future? What is it that you think you really want? If anything were possible, where would you want to be? What would you want to do? And then what are you going to do in the next, now that you know that, what is your plan? What's the bridge look like from that place to today? Not from today here, because it's hard to think. There's a lot of complexity. It's very overwhelming. So you got to break it down. But you want to do it. You want to know that if you're going to take that one action, do that one thing. Because there's a lot of things we can all do to improve our business, right? There's a lot of things we can do to improve our relationships. A lot of things that we can do to improve our finances. But what is the one thing that can do the most? And then don't be paralyzed. Decide and do that. But if you decide and do that, you know you're looking at your crystal ball and you say, this is where it's going. Is that going to be easier to do? You're going to go with more confidence, right? you're going to talk to people and say, yeah, I know where I'm going. And people are going to follow. You're going to walk in a network room and they're going to say, networking group, and they're going to go, let me talk to that person. They're going somewhere and I want to figure it out where they're going, even if they've never met you. And if they have met you, they can't wait for you to come to the meeting. Okay? You're not a zombie. You got to take the zombie quiz, by the way, the Business Growth Network. The first thing is an assessment, and we have a zombie quiz, and that'll be coming out here pretty quick. So you can determine what level of zombie you are, right? Is it there going to be there? Is it there yet? It's going to be there shortly. So this is all part of, I shared with you last week, this is all part of the Vision Challenge. You've heard me mention it a couple of times. Basically, in your unique crystal ball kind of wraps around your vision. It's a little more in depth, but we talk about how to get your unique reason, or your why, how to define that, then your unique vision as to where you're going. That would be kind of like that desired future. And then everybody has a unique value. What is it that how you're going to fund that journey? And that is your unique value. And that's what we come out of the 5-day Breakthrough Business Challenge. And so this is all connected. And I just wanted you to understand that. One of the things when I was here before is that we had an offer. We haven't filled the 8 places in the workshop that goes after the next Vision Challenge. So this deal is still available, but I think it's like for 4 people, 5 people, something like that. We're down to, and we know that once we get through, people get into the Vision Challenge, they're probably going to want to kind of implement afterwards implement these things. So that basically is what we're doing with the special offer. Is there'll be I'll be giving after the Vision Challenge 1 hour personal coaching to make sure people are prepared to go into the Growth Playbook workshop, and you can see the prices that will be post the Vision Challenge for those things. And then we'll do, we're also throwing in 3 months to the insiders. For those of you that are insiders here already, you've been with us for a while, and I think hopefully you've gotten something out of, as we've developed this, you've sure provided us with a lot of value, and I've learned a lot of things. And yeah, if you want to join us, the other thing is, I will tell you, I mentioned this to Randy when we were here, is as I'm working on the book, one of the things I've decided is that the examples and some of the things I'm going to use hopefully be driven by some of the people over the next year that are in the current Vision Challenge and as a Business Growth Network, so I can use maybe you'll see yourself, maybe I'll change the names to protect the guilty, but see yourselves in the book or whatever. But anyway, I'm excited to do this. Any questions? I think we're pretty. What time is it?
12:42. You got time.
Okay, well I got time. So questions about any of these things. We can go back to any of them. Anybody? I mean, I wanted to get through this. Obviously, I'm very passionate about. I'm very full of it. Everybody would agree with that, right? I'm full of it. No, I'm very full of this whole Vision Challenge, and the zombie apocalypse and all the other things. Any questions about this? Anything that, or comments, or Lloyd? I know Lloyd's probably got a comment.
Lloyd always has something to say. Assumptions. I mean, while we added these questions, it's a pretty broad range. So I'm thinking, are we supposed to think of possible or probable assumptions strictly in just our own little personal lives, or are we thinking, it could be, economic disaster or
macro. The intention of this is kind of like the framing of, yes, in your life especially, but I would encourage you the question is really about, are we doing this micro or macro? When I think of economics, is it my own personal consumption or whatever? But it is unique to you, but it is your view of the world at large, because you're living in the world. We all, are obviously individuals unto ourselves, but there's a world that we don't have any control of. One of the things I'm thinking, the best example I heard of this is, think of if you're captaining a ship, or I'm not a sailor, but if there are assumptions you make when you set out on your journey as a captain of a ship that you really don't have control over. Macro assumptions, a hurricane over here, there's this over here, that you do, and your whole life depends on the quality of your assumptions. And so that's what I'm saying. There's assumptions here. Back to the thing about like Uber. I'm assuming that people will always need taxis. I'm assuming that there's no technology potential displacement. I'm assuming everybody's going to always have, need Polaroid cameras. I mean, I'm assuming that Betamax is here forever. I mean, you assume, that here's, you pick winners and losers, whether you do it consciously or unconsciously. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to get you out of your head and onto paper so that you can better discern even not only what you think you should be doing, and validate those and test those and research those and say, is that really where industry is going? Is energy really going to be free? Is everything really going to be battery powered? Is there, fossil fuels going to go away? I mean, whatever. I don't know what your industry you're in, but the things that you're going to make, because that'll affect, those assumptions will affect some of the scenarios when you look at how am I going to live in the future? What am I going to live on? Right? And then by laying that macro ground rule work, then that gives you the ability to say, okay, that's what I'm assuming, but what's the counter to that? What might surprise me? So you can buy insurance. Who sells insurance in here? Anybody? Okay, so you buy insurance, right? That's why we buy insurance. Nobody we all are going to die, but nobody expects to do it tomorrow or plans for it necessarily tomorrow unless you're terminally ill and they told you. My point is that insurance is for things to hedge against the things that would surprise you, the things that you don't expect. And when you're coming up with your vision of where you want to go, you're going to want to have a pretty robust plan, talking about that planned future, that bridge. You want a bridge that can weather those surprises, as well as that's strongly built to get you along that probable path.
I'm thinking that you could spend a lot of time thinking about what could happen and what might surprise me or what might happen.
Right.
So do you have any particular, I'm thinking 5 to 10 things. If I'm saying, what will be added? I'm thinking I'm not going to go past 10. We'll stay the same. Am I going to, because, you can spend a lot of time figuring out what's going to happen.
Yeah. There's people who make a living of it. There's a lot of things. I think the things that come to mind, again, this is your unique crystal ball. So these are the things that are probably going to occur to you the most, the ones that are going to seem most important as you think of your own probabilities, the things that you're making, those decisions that you have for the future. I assume I'm going to have 5 kids to worry about. I assume I'm going to have grandkids in the equation. I assume they're going to be scattered all over the country. And I'm making decisions about where I live, what I do, how I structure my so those kinds of things. So they're personal things, and then there are macro things. I'm assuming that alternative energy is going to continue to be things that are going to happen. I'm assuming that technology is going to continue to grow. I'm assuming a lot of different things. I don't necessarily think about all those things, but it'd be good to write those down. And then write down what might surprise you. And then when something surprises you didn't write down, then at least, oops, I didn't think about that. As opposed to, I thought about that, but I don't know. Again, that's part of getting old, I think. But I'm very much more into the writing down mode. I did the 40 days of focus that Doug Grady taught us, and one of the things I started was journaling every day. And I write down things that I used to be in my head that I think of, and I started writing some of those things. Now it's changed my life. It's changed the vision challenge. It's changed a lot of things because I'm now writing down things that I observe, I think, I want, and I'm putting it down, and I go back to that, and go, oh, that was pretty smart, or that was stupid. Why did I even do that? You can look at it. It can be risky. What else? What other questions about the thing? Is this totally a waste of time? Sound like esoteric BS, or is this something?
Along with sort of Lloyd's question, this is not a one-time thing. You sit down and you do these 5 things and you fill 10 spaces on each one and then you put it away.
Sure.
I think part of the purpose of this is to continuously reflect on how good is my crystal ball.
Yeah.
Okay. What did I think the impact of this change would be? Oh, well, that change didn't happen. Well, did I just ignore it, or do I think, well, okay, I keep going in this direction, or was there a new surprise that I hadn't thought about? Well, I gotta think about that. So I think it's something that we should do periodically. I won't say daily, monthly, but
if you have it in, yeah, precise, great, Randy. I mean, the point is that Randy makes, if it's not coming across on the camera, but it's a very good point to make, is that this is, once you start it, there's nothing here, you know, a plan is relatively useless, but planning is everything. And I don't remember who, that's a stolen quote. I don't remember who said it, but somebody important, somebody more important than me, said it. But knowing that going through that process, doing what I'm describing here, developing some discipline around that is really what's going to drive you forward. Because again, every day you're building upon the assumptions and the decisions that you made the day before. And if you're assuming that you can eat fast food all you want, and you just eat fast food every day, you're going to get down the road and find out that you're not as healthy as you intended to be, right? So, anyway, well, thanks. Appreciate everybody.
Very
Mark,
good.
Appreciate Thank you in the audience. And
Good night.
good night.
Yes.